So this evening's class is called the Yin Betweeners. Now there are a number of those class plans that share that name. I'm not sure if this is the third, fourth, or the fifth one, but they're all of a theme. The idea is that every now and again to try and bring in the bits of the poses that we don't maybe get to do as regularly because we work, in an hour class. If we were working for an hour and a half, we'd be able to do everything. So first thing, going to sit up nice and tall, bring the legs into a comfortable position, either crossed or heels into the groin. Bolsters, blocks, blankets, whatever you want to sit on. And we'll try and get the body to be nice and upright. Taking some nice, slow, long breaths. Enjoy a gentle exhale. Let the whole body kind of just reset, especially if we've been rushing around a little bit. Now do consider the neck and the head as part of the spine. And so when we refer to a long spine, we mean every part of it from tail to top. Trying to sit up as tall as you can. The head is level. Jaw is relaxed. Breath is easy. Just the most immediate thing we notice is that it's actually a lot easier to breathe in and out when we sit upright. And we've spent the day hunched over for whatever reason. So let ourselves take a very gentle neck stretch. So I'm just going to take my right arm up, bring a little bend in at the elbow, and then let my hand just sort of rest onto my head, my arm, so that it draws my head towards the right side. And I can try and relax both shoulders down in this neck stretching position. Now you can gradually let the amount of weight in your arm that's stretching your neck increase. Don't have to take the whole of it. You can kind of hold the arm up a little bit and then gradually let it sink in. Still trying to keep those legs relaxed down. Now we'll release from there. It's very gently, just letting the head come back up in its own time. And then we'll slowly take the opposite arm out. Bend that elbow, so rest the forearm on the head, and then just allow it to draw down gently. And you might even notice that you don't get to the same position on both sides, and that's perfectly okay. You just might have big gaps one side in the spine. You might have tighter muscles in the shoulder and the neck on one side. We work with what we've got rather than an image that maybe we have in our head of where we want to try and get to. We listen to the body. We'll gently release from there as well. So I'm going to move the feet a little bit. I'll turn a little bit on my block so it's easier to see what I'm doing. I'm going to bring the soles of the feet together so they touch, but they're quite a distance away. You could have them as far forward as you can, but still allow the soles of the feet to touch. So once you get past that point, you don't really need to go any further, but you do want to be, at least the heels away from the knees. And then we'll take it into a slight forward bend, but mostly we're going to let the spine round. So I'm going to draw the chin in towards the chest, draw the belly towards the spine, let the pelvis tilt backwards a little bit as my body sinks down, and really slouch into this shape. And feel this big stretch in the spine, the back of the neck, and notice where that stretch feels like it's taking place. There will be a degree of falling forwards. That's unavoidable. So we don't try and resist it. We just kind of accept that it happens. It's a byproduct of letting ourselves round our spine. It's one of those poses that really challenges the breath, trying to keep it as smooth as we can. It might be difficult to feel like you can get a full breath because we're compressing the diaphragm. But we're trying to do our best. Slowly use the hands to lift ourselves up. We're going to make our way onto our fronts. So move the blocks out of the way. Chest and chin down on the floor towards the front of the mat. I have the feet together, so thighs are close. Take the arms out wide. Take a little breath. I'm going to bring my right hand in and just roll onto the left side. So as I do, I walk that left hand out a bit. Now you could bring the block underneath the head or a cushion if the neck is straining at all. And if it feels like your lower back is rolling over, it's pulling on your lower back, then allow yourself to move your top leg so your foot comes in behind the back of your knee joint. The knee points towards the sky. And then slowly move the bottom leg out towards the corner edges of the mat. Just wriggle around with the top foot till you find a really nice place for that leg to be. And that should take any feeling of stretch out of the lower back. So then we can focus on relaxing the top shoulder. Or rather the shoulder that's underneath that's being stretched out. That's what I meant by the top shoulder. It's the one we're working on. Physically, it's the one on the bottom. So this really stretches the front of the shoulder joint and into the chest. There's some compressive work into the back of the shoulder. Take a little breath from there. Bring the feet back, one leg on top of the other. Roll the chest gently into the floor and wriggle the fingers out in that outstretched arm until it feels like the arm has come back to life, which could take a few seconds. And then I'll simply bring the opposite hand in when I'm ready. I'm going to roll onto that side, walking the fingers out as far as I can. Just in the back, foot in, and then taking the lower foot out to the corner edge again, just as I've done before. Try to have your head and your eyes looking directly to the side of the mat rather than down towards the bottom of the mat. So the spine is long. Give them a secondary neck stretch as a bonus in this pose. And I'm going to slowly bring myself back onto my chest, wriggling out the fingers. Whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to just take the feet out as wide as the mat, bootlaces down, and then start to bring the hands underneath. So this is where you could take the bolster and bring that underneath your chest so it helps lift you up. But if you're able to, we'll just take the hands out in front with the body relatively high, getting a little bit of compression into that lower back. And then we're going to stretch the shoulders again. So I'm going to take my left hand under and out towards the right side. So I want that 90 degrees to the side of the mat and the arms straight as I can. Now walk the other hand around and take that 90 degrees to that side of the mat. So I've now got two lovely straight arms, 180 degrees apart. And then I can let my chin come down and just rest against my arms. So I do want to try and keep the shoulders away from the ears in the process of bringing myself into the pose. So if your shoulders were wrapped up tight around your ears, it will affect the ease that you find to move your arms out to the side. So you might need to just kind of wriggle them down towards the pelvis a little bit and get them to a happy place. Breathing into the ribs, you're going to feel them stretch a lot in this pose. Reach forward, belly in. Lift the chest just enough so that we can untangle the first arm from underneath us. Press that into the floor. Ease the other arm out. And then slowly bring ourselves into the same pose, but with the arms crossed over the opposite way. Again, just walking the fingers back, shoulders away from the ears, and then letting the chin drop gently in. It is something of an unusual pose, and if you've not done it before, it's more than a little bit of a challenge. But we don't do this a lot, but hopefully over the course of time, you get to practice it a few times and it feels at least familiar. And therefore a little bit easier to be in and possibly relax. Take a little breath, lift the chin, lift the chest a little. See if we can unwrap the arms. And then once you've done that, I'm going to roll on to whichever side is easier for you to draw your knees in towards your body. So we kind of have a preference there. Then use the hands to press down gently into the floor or to lift back up. I'm going to come into saddle pose, which you could do by having the block behind your bottom and ready to sit in. We do bring the knees together. Now, the alternative to that is to roll a bolster in, line it up on the center line of the mat, and then use that to sit on. So just sit on the end, and that way we can still keep the sides together and we get the pelvis into a nice position. So we're only going to be here for 5 or 6 minutes. So we want those knees to be very comfortable. And sometimes just being a little higher than perhaps we would normally take might just serve us. And I'm sitting up nice and tall. I'm going to take that strap, unravel, and I'm going to take the buckle end into my left hand and just roll the strap around the fist a couple of times so that I know where the buckle is and it's not going to fly around and cause me any distress. I'm going to take that left arm up and let the strap fall behind my back. I'm going to slowly bend the elbow and bring the hand down my spine towards the nape of my neck. Take a little breath from there. Allow the right hand to go out. I'm going to slowly take that out to the side. So several breaths, just easing that back. Now we've already opened up the chest a little bit in the first pose. So I'm going to see how far back I can take my arm. And then I'm going to turn the palm and draw my hand up towards my fingertips. I'm just going to use that strap to hold on to. Now you might be able to get your fingers to actually lock, and that's great. But you do want the straight and long spine, including the head. So if that's jammed down in an effort to get your fingers to touch, then let them release and just use the strap. You're still able to work into the shoulders in this pose in that way by drawing the shoulder blades towards the back of the mat, as if you can push them away from you. And at the same time, take your high elbow a little up and your low elbow just a little down. Just enough to know that they're doing some work. It doesn't have to be a big stretch at all. It's just we've moved in, rolled back, and then we stretch out just a fraction. Release. And we'll move the strap and buckle into the right hand. Take that around a couple of times. So that nice and tall. Take the hand high, strap behind, bend at the elbow. Just move that in a little bit. Taking the left hand out, we're going to slowly reach that behind. As far as you can. And then turn, palm up towards the back of the mat, and then ease the hand up your back. Fingers working their way together. Don't have to get to the same position on both sides. Shoulders are quite often not symmetric in our bodies, either the joints themselves or just the way the muscles have developed over a lifetime. Think about the fact that we're right-handed or left-handed, and we're already going to see some differences in between one side of it and the other. Then we're just rolling the shoulders back a little bit, as if we're pressing them towards the back of the mat. That kind of draws the elbows in that direction. Try and take one elbow high and an elbow low. Slowly release from there. And then we can put the strap out to the side. Allow the arms to float out wide. I'm going to come into eagle arms. So I'm going to bring left arm and right arm over the top. Bend at the elbows. Bring the hands together as close as I can. So even just holding a thumb would be enough. And then I'm going to let the elbows rest into the chest bone. Try and relax the shoulders out wide. And breathe into the back of the shoulders. So when you breathe in, quite often we say we can breathe into our belly. On this occasion, we're going to see if we can breathe into our shoulders. So we kind of direct the airflow there. And that just opens the rib cage up a little more. You can release those hands down. A little shake out. Now we'll gently turn the arms high. Right arm, left arm over the top. And come together and the elbows drop in again. Try and let those shoulders broaden out. Breathe into the back of the shoulder blades. And then again, we can release from there and give a little shake out. So I'm going to lean gently onto all fours and bring the brick in a little bit. Because I was using the bolster, I'll just move that out to the side. Straighten the legs out just a fraction. Make sure they're happy. And then sitting back onto the heels, I'm going to bring that block underneath, or not underneath, but just behind my toes. And I'm going to have the brick close by as well. Come onto all fours, tuck the toes underneath with the feet about the same width as the block is wide, and then let the heels rest onto the block. And once I've done that, I'm going to take the brick and place it underneath my sitting bone. So I want to be able to sit down in position. And then if it feels good, you can just slide your feet a little bit further forwards and take your feet off of the block. Now that still allows us to be in the squat position. We still want to be sitting up nice and tall. I want to try and let the feeling of gravity sink down the spine. So in a neutral position, nice and vertical. So I'm purposely going to bring my forearms to rest on my knees. My knees are out wide, my feet are turning out as well. And I'm trying to position my pelvis in as neutral position to the floor as I can. So there's the least amount of effort and strain going through the spine. I'm opening the hips out a little more. Getting a little bit of work into the ankle ligaments down there as well. And it has the benefit of being a very supported position, but it also gets you used to being low to the floor. You can imagine that if your hips would open up enough in the future, that we could change from a brick to 2 blocks, which would be slightly shorter. And then, given enough time, maybe we could take the second block out and actually just sit on the first block like we are here. Now, some people will be able to do that straight away. For some of us, that would be a challenge, for the ankles, the knees, the hips, but also for our sense of balance. If you feel like you're rocking forwards or backwards too far, it's not a comfortable position, and you're not able to relax, which is exactly what we're trying to do. We want to be as comfortable as we can sitting on a hard block. Cushion would be probably a little easier, but we need it to be supporting us. So we've got a few more breaths here to take. Just relaxing the shoulders down. Trying to keep the spine long with the minimum amount of effort. And then move out of that. So I'm going to just cross my ankles with fingers on the floor, roll over the ankles and bring myself back into a position where I can move the blocks out of the way. And I'm going to come down gently into Sphinx pose. I'm just going to slowly lengthen the legs back out. Allow the elbows to be underneath my shoulders. Slowly lay the hips down towards the floor, move the feet out to the corner edges. Turn the heels out a little bit. Now you can bring the fingers together and lightly interlace them if that feels comfortable to you. You have the forearms parallel, palms down, whatever works for you. We're actually going to try and keep those shoulders in position so they're directly above the elbows, and then let the chest and the ribs sink a little more towards the ground. So you will feel like your shoulders are lifting up towards the sky a little bit and maybe compressing in. That would be perfectly natural. I'm trying to let the muscles in the legs completely relax, which takes a bit of concentration. Trying to really let your buttocks soften completely. Almost like you're having a little conversation with your own bottom. Trying to encourage it to let any knots go. So reasonably successful this evening on one side. My left buttock is not quite cooperating as much as I would anticipate it could do. So I'll just continue to have happy thoughts and see if that can kind of dislodge the knots a little bit. That seems significant to have a bit of a knot in the center of one butt cheek. But if you can imagine that if that's tight, then everything above it and everything below it is being stressed in some way. So even when you think you're as relaxed as you can be, if you've got knots in the body, it's actually pulling you to and fro, side to side, backwards and forwards, in a way that's challenging the nervous system and the muscle fibers. So we're trying to relax out, because the more those knots we can remove, the easier we can move around. Take a breath there. Allow myself to come down completely onto my chest. I'm going to roll then onto my back. And ideally, you want the head to be supported on the mat. We're going to come into the banana pose. So I'll lengthen the legs down the center line of the mat first. Take the hands up towards the sky. Just roll the shoulders out from underneath first. I'm going to take my right wrist with my left hand, and then take a shimmy of the shoulders over to the left. Then when you feel ready, slide the feet over to the left side as well. So we put that nice side bend with the pelvis alongside of the spine and the shoulders. Try and keep the shoulders and the back of the pelvis flat and evenly weighted to the ground. You might need to move them around underneath you a little bit. Relax into that stretch. We call it the banana pose for the obvious reason that it looks a little bit like you're trying to be the shape of a banana. There is a possibility to take, in this case, the right leg over the left at the ankles, providing you can still keep your two sides of the pelvis flat to the ground. If you find you're just rolling into the curve, you're actually curving more than you need to. So it's a sign that you could move out a little bit. Sometimes we just have to wriggle around and adjust the pelvis underneath to accommodate our bodies. We'll start to bring ourselves back to the center. Just gently change over from one wrist to the other, and then take the shimmy, turning the head in, shoulders flat to the ground, pelvis flat to the ground. So take a few breaths here, just letting the shoulders relax down. And then when you're ready, you start to take the legs out to the corner edges of the mat, nice and gently, nice and slowly. For anyone that has tenderness in the lower back, you will definitely feel this. You want to move as carefully as you can. Breathe nice and long, slow, gentle breaths. Moving in and obviously out of the pose with concentration and focus, so we can move slowly. And slowly bring ourselves back where we believe our body is a nice long line down the mat. We'll slide the feet in towards our bottom and let those elbows come back down by the side of the body and just lengthen the arms out a little bit. So we're going to shake the hips, wriggle through the shoulders, let the spine have a little bit of space. We're going to try and massage the spine to feel very low. I'm going to take my block and just place that underneath the back of my head. And move myself towards a happy baby pose. So the reason I do this is because I just find this is an easier position for my neck and my shoulders. That allows me then to focus more on what I'm trying to do in my happy baby pose. So that little lift I did was to draw the sort of the tough part of the waistband of my trousers, which is obviously got a label and extra stitching, away from the base of the spine. So I'm just drawing the trousers up a little bit. So pelvis, back of my spine is easier and more chance and more connected to the floor. Once I've done that, draw the knees in towards the chest. Take the knees wide with the hands on top of the knees, toes together. Slide my fingers down my shins. Draw the feet in towards me a little closer. Try to keep my tailbone down low as I can on the floor, knees out nice and wide. I'll let myself hang there for a moment. So I'm not rushing into the pose, I'm just taking my time. And then I'm going to slowly start to invite my feet, soles of the feet towards the sky. And ideally, I'd have the feet directly above the knees. Just walk the fingers out around the little toe area. And actually try and let the feet move away from the body a little bit. There is a tendency, if you're tight in the spine and the hamstrings, to curl a little bit, and the feet come closer towards you. So So relax the shoulders and use the or any length of advantage in your arms to let the feet move a little towards the tailbone end of your body. And that will provide a natural drop of the spine closer and closer to the floor. It's quite a long hold. And you may find that you want to move your hands around on your feet a little bit. So if that allows you to stay relaxed and keep your grip, then by all means do. And to the weight of the legs, draw the knees down a little bit. Cool. Release from there. Just bring the feet back in towards the bottom. I give myself a little hug, so I draw my chin in towards my chest. Wrap my arms around the shins. That means the tailbone can come away from the floor. I'm going to roll onto my right side. Use the hands to push down into the floor. Let myself lift up gently onto all fours. I'm going to move the block out of the way a little bit to the side. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders, toes underneath. I'm going to lift my knees away from the ground and allow the feet to be about hip distance apart and parallel. And then slowly walk the hands in towards the toes. I'll take a couple of breaths there, just pressing the feet down into the floor easily. Getting used to the idea of my ribs and my thighs getting a little closer as my hips get a little nearer towards the ceiling. And then I'm going to bring the hands onto the shins and lift up halfway. Shoulders roll back a little bit, spine is nice and long. And exhale down into the fold. Hands onto the shins, let the legs open out a little bit more. Use my way down. Hands onto the shins. Use my way down. 2 more times. And slowly walk the fingers towards the front of the mat. Bring myself into down dog. Take a little breath from there and draw the right knee in towards the chest and bring that foot through between the hands with the knee over the ankle. Drop the back knee down onto the floor. Untuck the toes, take a little breath. Bring the hands onto the front thigh and let myself lift up slowly. Just drawing the belly in a little bit, sending the tailbone down. Once I found some balance and lift it up, I'm going to take the arms out wide. Let the arms lift up towards the sky. Lift the chest up towards the ceiling as well. So I take a little bit of a back bend. And then float the arms out wide. And bring them back down to the floor under the mat. Tuck the toe on the back. Lift the knee. Ease myself back into that down dog. Stretch up tall. And then I'm ready to bring that left knee in. Bring that through. Put that knee down. Tuck the toes on the back, checking the position of the front foot. Hands onto the thighs, I draw the belly in a little bit, let myself lift up slowly. Let the hands come out to the side. Inhale, let the chest lift a little bit of a back bend. And just come out wide and down to the floor. Put the toe on the back foot. Ease my way into that down dog. Some I'll take the right leg and scissor that up towards the sky. And then draw the knee in towards the chest and bring the foot through. Gonna slowly take a twist. And take that right arm up towards the sky. Bring the hand back down to the floor. Stepping back into the down dog. Scissoring the left leg towards the sky. And then bringing the knee in towards the body and through to the front of the mat into the lunge. We'll take the left hand up. Bring that hand back down. Take a little breath from there. Step into the front of the mat for a forward fold. Bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees and the spine lifts. Let the hands come in towards the heart. And then on the inhale, we press down through the feet. Take the hands towards the sky into a little standing back bend. Bring the hands back in towards the heart. Start to exhale down to the floor. Stepping it back with the right and the left into the down dog. Good. Bring the knees down to the floor. And sit down for a moment. I'm going to be using the block and the brick again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow myself to make a little support for my spine in bridge pose. Now, if you happen to have a fairly new bolster and the beams don't sort of sag down from one end to the other, so it's really nice and even, you could use that, which would be a little higher, but would also be a little softer, a little more inviting. Or you can use the blocks, which are going to support across the back of the pelvis. Just going to take the feet out to the side. Allow the knees to be high, choosing whichever prop combination you want to work with. Chin in towards the chest, roll the spine down again. Allow the head to come to the ground. Again, I'm just going to move the trouser waistband around a little bit. Optimize my chances of being flatter through the pelvis and not pushing into that SI joint inadvertently in a way that's a bit aggressive. I'm going to slowly draw the belly in, start to press the feet into the floor. I'm going to lift up slowly. It's not the world's biggest bridge pose that we need to come into. We just want to slide, bolster, block, or whatever we're using underneath, and make sure that it's resting on the pelvis and not the lower spine. So the sort of flexible bit from the pelvis to your ribs, those are the lumbar spine vertebrae. I want to make sure that we're off of that. But at the same time, we don't want the support so far down that it's really just sort of sitting on our sitting bones. Because it won't be very comfortable, but it also won't give us a great deal of support. So it's across the sort of thickest, widest part of the backbone, of the pelvis rather. Once you've done that, we're going to take the feet out as wide as the mat and let the knees rock in. Now you can bring the hands just down by the side of your body, palms facing up. Or you could take your hands up towards the sky and then let them come back down to the floor behind you. But what we're trying to do is soften the spine out. So get some of the, the natural curves that are in our spine to sink downwards. So the less stress we have in our body, the more chance we have of being successful. So take the arms up and you feel that the chest is flaring up towards the sky and you're pinching your lower back. I'd probably recommend bringing the hands back down by the side of your body and just rolling those shoulders underneath a little bit. You can stay here with the knees together in this position, or if your spine feels very happy in this pose and you want to work into the stretching these hip flexors out a little bit more, then you can simply use your toes to walk your feet towards the end of the mat until you get to a straight leg position. So obviously that is like doing a back bend for a long period of time. It is supported. It is very strong on that SI joint, the sciatic nerves. It will stretch out these hip flexors, as we say, which could be a great thing if you are a runner. We'll just overly tight in that area. If anyone's ever said to you have a pelvic tilt, releasing these muscles would be very good in front, the top of the hips. Otherwise, we're just trying to mellow out and let ourselves sink our spine down to the floor. But there's a element of trust in the props we're using, but also in our own body, that it will only sink as far as it's natural to do, and that we're not actually in any danger. The nervous system might have a bit of a different opinion to your logical brain, which might be thinking, why can't I relax? This should be okay. Well, time just allows the nervous system to catch up with your ideas. We're going to start to make our way back out of this. If I bring the heels back in, if they were lengthened out, nice and wide, draw the belly in, start to very gently start pressing into the feet. You'll feel the muscles in the legs and in the buttocks in your lower back start to tighten. We're going to lift just enough to be able to slide the block and the brick or the bolster out from underneath. And then we're going to take a few breaths to let the spine roll gently back down to the floor. Now it's going to feel like it's a long way away. You might be wondering, someone's pinched the floor from underneath you. It's that kind of, wow, that's a lot further than I thought it was going to be moment. And then as you land, you gradually let the effort loosen out of the legs. If your room is a little chilly, kind of put an extra blanket on or an extra top or whatever you need. But when you're eventually ready and back down into this position on the floor, we'll just lengthen the legs out to the corner of the mat, hands beside the body, close the eyes, soften the jaw, and begin Shavasana. I'm just going to lift up myself, and I'm going to cheat and put the central heating back on. It's actually got a bit chilly. I'll be back, don't worry. Keeping the eyes closed. Begin to breathe a little deeper. Stretch the fingers and the toes. Let the wrists and the ankles begin to move. Just reconnect the body and the mind. When you're ready, allow yourself to use that extra energy from those deeper breaths to stretch out in any way that feels good. Slowly start to bring the feet towards you, sliding them along the ground in towards your bottom. Let a knee at a time come in towards you so you can take a gentle hug, whatever that can or needs to look like, but make it as soft as you can. Some people like to roll on the spine a little bit from side to side. Some people like to stir the knees around a little bit in the air, whatever feels good. And then together we'll roll gently onto that right side with the knees in towards the body. And spend the moment here just enjoying the sense of gravity change in the body. Allow ourselves to be more aware of how we feel. There we are. And we're able to use the hands on an exhale to press down into the floor. Bring ourselves back up to sitting. Again, we want to just come into a sitting posture that is easy and comfortable. And then when you've arrived, let yourself bring your hands in towards your heart. Take a longer, deeper breath as you close your eyes. As slow exhalation begins, you can let the chin drop towards the chest. As your belly draws towards your spine, you can allow yourself to bow simply to the floor, sealing your practice. As the breath comes back in, you can use that to lift your spine. Let the head follow and the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining this evening. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the mat again soon.